All right, well, let's go on ahead and just get going. Welcome to another town hall. I'm excited to have everybody here and have my voice back, unlike last week. So a big shout out to, the rest of the team that stepped up and helped host things while I was struggling and down for the count. Just a couple housekeeping items and we'll get to our agenda and then kind of an open floor setting. In case you missed it, we had a great AMA with Glenn from Bangor yesterday. That it should be up on YouTube by now if you weren't able to catch it here live. A lot of good stuff talking about with one of our longest partners. So go check that out if you've got some time. We had a lot of good stuff come out of Treasury Tuesday this week, which I think some of that will bleed into today's discussion as well. So excited to hear some more conversation around that. In terms of today's agenda, I've only seen kind of two proposals that I think we'll be looking to talk about. The first one is extending the boost period and using CVX bribes, and so that'll get some conversation today. And then the discretionary investment budget as well is another agenda item I want to talk about with all of y'all. So yeah, I think that's about it on the updates today. Might as well kick right off into the boost program. So I think that there's been some discussion on it. I'd love to call up either Alcap as the author or anybody that's kind of been in deeper in the discussions here to talk about any of the recent developments with it. And I'm going to go ahead and drop that link in the voice chat as well. Let me just go on ahead and pull that up from the forum real quick. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and drop that in voice chat right now. Looks like we've got Alcap ready to hop on up here. Hey, how you doing?
Hey, doing great. How are you?
Doing great. Glad to hear from you. So why don't you just give us a quick overview of the proposal and any of the latest kind of thoughts or modifications that have happened, and we can kind of open up discussion there.
Right. So my proposal was built around the idea that after the initial 8 weeks of boosting program we have right now, it would be a good idea to continue the boosting period a bit, just until the volume kicks in and until the APY will be natural high enough to keep people staking Rook. After some suggestions and feedback from the community, I updated the Keep to have a fixed period of time of 8 weeks. And right now it's much more flexible, as you can see. And in case we want to adjust it at a later point, we can do so. So feel free to provide any extra feedback you might have. Special thanks to Jason and Daddy for all input they gave to me.
Awesome. So yeah, if you guys haven't seen the latest draft, it is posted in the voice chat text channel. And let's go on ahead and take any comments from the field about the latest developments here or support of the program. Yeah, just looking for folks from the community to provide some feedback here. I guess I can kick it off. I think Alcap, you've been fantastic in how flexible you are and wanting to find common ground for making a program like this work. You've been awesome to work with, so I've been really happy about that. Looking at the edits that you've made to it, I think they're all good in my opinion. Something that we can kind of look at. And maybe want to consider the overlap is if we're looking at the current boosting program having run for 8 weeks and then another 8 weeks on top of that, I think in the middle of that last kind of additional section is when we'll be, required to relock our CVX. And so I just would want to make sure that that discussion happens ahead of time as well, because that could impact, how much bribes we're getting or anything that would impact this boosting program. So that would just be the only thing I'd want to be cognizant of, in terms of how much we use for it. I'm personally happy with, the amount of boosting that, that will be provided from this. My hope is that CVX stays beneficial for us in terms of the amount of money coming in every 2 weeks, and that stays stable. So as long as that happens, I don't have any argument against this. I think it's a great community initiative, and if we see the right numbers from it, that'll be fantastic. And it allows for flexibility inside of it as well. I would be interested in seeing some of the numbers, at least in the beginning here, of what's happened with the staking program and how that's impacted, say, the number of people or number of addresses that have acquired Rook, while this has been going on. Have they held through then in terms of who's staking? What's the kind of number of users that have held for, a long period of time, whether it's 6 months, 12 months, things like that. I'd also like to look into, are stakers using our platform, or is it kind of, a one-dimensional opportunity for them that they are just, happy to be staking, and that's kind of their main interaction with us. I'd like to look into some numbers of, are our users also our stakers? And so, I think some of those questions would be really cool to answer, but, right now, I have nothing against the staking program. I think that, as we've held consistently, right around 240,000 Rooks staked. So really exciting to see that number hold. And so if this, we'll continue to hold that, I think it will lead us to kind of bigger discussions about what to do with staked Rook. And, if there's the necessary development for a new staking contract with a new model that's based off of, different parameters and aspects and different utility for the Rook that's staked. All of that will need to be kind of considered, modeled out, and built. But until that time comes, I have no problem with this plan. But yeah, that's kind of my long ramble.
Yeah, I just want to hop. Go ahead, Alcap.
Just one thing. The APY will go a bit down over time, even if we extend my keep for 8 weeks. I think it would be nice to analyze how many people are going to unstake their Rook, because currently the amount of stake Rook is flat, basically. So after the initial 8 weeks are done, I expect the APY to drop below 20% a bit, and it will be really nice to see how many people are going to unstake, if any. Maybe there will be no people to unstake.
So are you saying that you would like to maybe have a gap period between the two staking programs to see how it's impacted?
No. Not a gap. I'm just curious to analyze the effect of having the APY low, because it will be lower even with the keep I proposed. So right now we know that almost 250,000 Rook are staked. So let's see how much will be when the APY will be 20%. So we can adjust for eventually another boosting program to see if the amount of people that are going to unstake the Rook is high. We will definitely need maybe to boost and eventually. If people are not affected that much, so people keep staking their Rook, it means that the people are happy with the APY being a bit lower. Does this make sense? So basically, we're just going to analyze. We have how much people are staking, how much Rook is staked right now, and in 8 weeks we'll see how many are going to left, how many remains, and in another 8 weeks after my program is over, we'll basically check again.
Okay. Yeah. So looking at the average inflows, I mean, over the past, let's call it 4 bribe rounds, we're averaging about, 1,200 to 1,600 Rook. And so, if that were being 100% allocated to this program on a rolling basis, that, is about in line with the current boost program as well. So I'm not sure if we'll see too significant of a lower APR. It might be a little bit lower, and if Rook price goes up and we're not able to acquire as much Rook, then definitely will be lower. But yeah, that's just kind of my quick napkin math of looking at the last transfers into the treasury. Matt, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I'll get to what I was going to say in a second. But Cap, what would you think about maybe backloading this 8-week program so that way it gives us we're still allocating additional rewards and keeping it higher, but maybe it'll allow us to be more data driven with a 2-week period where we're still giving additional rewards, but they are less so that we understand what that impact has from the perception of stakers to understand what if really the ROI is there. So what would you think about backloading those rewards? If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. But the question would be if people are expecting, so let's see, we have reduced APR for 2 weeks, all right? And after those 2 weeks, people are basically expecting the APR to go back up. Will they unstake or they'll remain because they know in 2 weeks the APR will be high again? No, I'm not sure how many weeks are needed to see certain direction for the staking amounts, if it's going lower or no.
Yeah, I'd be curious if anybody else from the community has any insight, just whether they've seen with different protocols, communities, something like this, or if they just have a gut feeling about how the reaction would be for a 2-week period, if that's long enough, and if that's even a good idea.
It's a good question. I would probably point to the Bancor pool as, kind of a soft analogy to what's happening here. I say that because, the original Bancor pool was given additional LM rewards by Bancor. And so there was a big boost to that for a pretty long period of time. I think it was, 6 to 8 weeks. And then that went away. And that, that APR is, I think, well below kind of 4 or 5 these days. And there's still a ton of liquidity there. I know that folks pulled a bunch of Rook off of, multiple different places to stake here. But we haven't seen a full exodus from Bancor. And so I don't know if that is apathy or whatever, people just not paying attention, or if they're okay with those levels. I think it would be interesting to look into.
Gotcha. Well, yeah, I think it's. I think Stubbs has said he'll take a look. And said I think that'll be helpful. But overall, what I was really going to come up here to say is, based off of those changes you made on Cap, which I think is a great proposal. I definitely am in support of this. I think it allows things to be fair and very flexible, which I think we need. Instead of it being a little bit more open-ended. So I'm happy to kind of see that go to fruition. Hopefully, we'll see what the SoFons do with it. But my support is behind it as structured currently. Also, I saw you brought your brother in, so I guess you want more family here. So it's a family affair now.
Love it. All right. That's 2 folks that have come up, spoken in favor of the proposal. Would love to have anyone else come up, ask questions, voice support or objections to it. here's your chance to kind of, share your thoughts with the rest of the community that's present here. All right. Well, Cap, you have any closing thoughts there? All right, I see you hopped off stage anyway. Yeah, I would say that fantastic work there. Love to see community-driven proposals like the research that went into it and the flexibility in the feedback that was provided. So all around good stuff, and a big thank you for AlCap for leading that charge. The next thing I wanted to talk about was the discretionary investment budget, which Matt, you better come back up on stage and talk about.
Yeah, I've definitely talked about this a fair amount. I know there hasn't been a lot of commentary so far, but really this just allows us as a community to have more flexibility with making big moves, or not big moves, but decent sized moves without signaling our intent to the rest of the market, getting front run, and potentially breaking confidentiality and any kind of potential M&A deals that we may want to engage with. And I will say, I think right now, especially with the market going down dramatically, with us being in a pretty stable position with regards to our treasury holdings, there's a fair opportunity for us to go bottom feeding, and at some point, like some of these teams out there are not going to be able to pay people. Maybe they're mainly in their own token, which has just been getting crushed, and they didn't really allocate their treasury properly. So we not only have the opportunity to snag up a lot of proprietary technology and projects, but also talent, because maybe these teams just can't pay people and they could just be quickly absorbed through some kind of agreement or relationship, whether that's M&A or not. I don't know exactly. It's going to be case by case, but I think that discretionary KIP was something that is a good idea in a great market. It's an even better idea in a bad market. So that, just want to throw that out there, that there's many things, and especially there's a higher probability for black swan events right now, I'd say, and maybe it's been slightly de-risked, but overall us having a little bit more fluid ability to kind of rebalance without having going through governance is going to really keep us a little bit protected. So not only will we have further upside by making bigger moves and snagging up talent, projects, people, but we also can kind of protect the downside as well by having that flexibility. So would really love your kind of feedback and comments, and even if it's negative, would love to kind of see that.
So I just posted the draft in voice chat here. Looks like we've got AlCap that wants to come up. Come on up.
Yeah, I'm fully support of this proposal. Just one question. Let's say that we are going to a bear market. Hope not, but let's say, what if there be a huge opportunity right after we already spent that 5% on something else? I mean, shouldn't we create like some sort of, not backdoor, no, I don't know, in case of something, a good opportunity arises, maybe we should allow the team to spend an extra, I don't know, 2 or 3%, just so we don't miss that opportunity too, and maybe have a total of 10% per year. And if the team decides to invest, I don't know, the whole 10% in 6 months, so be it. I just don't want to miss opportunities after we already spent that 5%, if it makes sense, in case there are opportunities.
Yeah, that kind of echoes a comment that Jay-Z had left on the forum as well, which was like, okay, so we spent 5% and then there's a black swan event, is there flexibility around that as well? So, an interesting thought by you, and kind of echoes in what Joey had been talking about.
Because if we are going to a bear market, chances are there, they are not zero. There'll be a lot of businesses that will suffer and we could acquire for very cheap. Like, we should always be prepared and have an extra amount of money set aside for such opportunities. Because in bear market, if everything is going close to zero, but the tech is great and we know it produces money when the time is right, we should acquire as much as possible. So having a 5% limit for me doesn't make sense, especially if we are going into a bear market and there are going to be huge opportunities. Hazard mentioned something like this in the past.
Yeah, I mean it's a great suggestion, and I would have personally loved to go higher, but I realized that coming from the team's perspective, I didn't want to seem like we're just trying to grab more power, so I was trying to keep it as conservative as possible. And something else I wanted to kind of say was this proposal is kind of an abstract from what I have in my larger budget proposal, which is kind of sitting in limbo, and I still don't know what's happening, but anyways, there was also additionally like an executive wallet that would probably give that 1 to 2 to 3% more for us to make discretionary moves, but it's more from leadership's perspective. So, originally what I had in there was probably getting to what you wanted, but I'm fine, bumping that up. I'd be curious what other community members think. I know that there's, it really just comes down to trust and our ability to execute as a team. So if you feel like you have higher levels of trust to kind of be able to do that, I'm fine kind of moving that up. But I just want to be cautious, and I guess I would love to hear what other community members think about increasing, the level of power that the team has without going through governance. And maybe one other thing I want to say is maybe this could also be something that we developed through a governance workshop, and I think this could be like almost like an emergency proposal, or maybe emergency is not the right word, but maybe we have a separate governance path that is for Black Swan events or special instances like this. Um, and maybe it's a quicker voting, maybe it's a 1 day voting or a 24 hour or something like that. I don't know what that looks like, but perhaps that is kind of something that we can supplement this path that still has to go, or I guess it's a different path than general governance as well.
So Matt, you bring up two really good points. I think the first one that I wanted to touch on was runway, and just making sure that, okay, so, let's say that we keep it at 5 or we up it to 10%, communicating how that affects our runway, just as we talked about Black Swan events affecting other protocols and their ability to pay employees. We just would, I know that your due diligence is top tier, but just being able to communicate with folks, that runway and things wouldn't be significantly impacted. That would be one thought that I'd want to see. And then the other thing they're bringing up about kind of what's called emergency governance. I think that is a whole nother topic, and probably something that we should focus on in a workshop, and really kind of start modeling out and planning out. You look at something like, like when Compound had an issue and went through emergency governance to shut some stuff down. I believe it was Compound. But there are other protocols that have, kind of your standard governance model, and then they have like, break this glass in case of emergency governance that has the ability to, move funds, turn parts of the protocol off, things like that. And I think a bigger strategy around emergency protections for not just the DAO's assets, but the protocol in general too, would be something to look into.
But maybe I'm trying to think of how if anybody has ideas on soft consensus, I'll cap. I know we have a recent soft consensus debacle, but if anybody has ideas about how to get soft consensus about what this limit likes, or what a good approach is from just a separate governance process, definitely would love to hear that, so we can get more feedback on this, because I definitely think it has really large ramifications, and I wouldn't want to take lightly.
Cool. Well, let's grab any more commentary. Does anyone else have some thoughts about the discretionary investment proposal? Thanks, Alcap, for your thoughts on that as well. But yeah, the mic's open for anybody that wants to come share some thoughts.
Until somebody decides to speak. I wonder, what if after the team announces that basically they reach the limit, what if we automatically have a new proposal to extend it and let the community decide based on what the team basically explained, for what they use the money for, right? But the process to be like automatic after the team announce, okay, we spent 5% on this. Would you like to allow us for another, I don't know, 2 or 3%? Because I don't know. There might be another opportunities.
That definitely seems like the best idea, I think. It still goes through general governance, and especially if it's quickly after, it's like there's a very small window where something major could happen, where it's like, okay, we don't have this opportunity. So I would agree with that approach for sure.
Wes, you got some thoughts here, and then Preston, you can go after Wes.
Yeah, I guess I would just like to echo some support for this. I think being able to do M&A, merger and acquisition without going through the governance process is going to keep us flexible and um, I guess just allow it to happen. I feel like if we had to go through governance to do that, it would just be a pain in the butt. And I think there's definitely a use case for that. And I think again for rebalancing and high volatility events, I think that's again a no brainer to do.
Preston, thoughts?
Actually, I had like an off-topic question.
Go ahead.
So I was wondering, I was looking at the payouts and the APR from the staking program, and is it how much do we think is the distribution that we approved versus how much is like the natural APR, and is APR really the best way of showing that yield, especially in these early stages while we're not quite sure what the distributions are looking like, and just wanted to try to get y'all's thoughts on that, and if you guys are thinking about ways to present that information.
We have definitely talked about different ways of presenting the distributions and potentially kind of breaking them up individually, including adding more information, including, kind of accrued totals from the regular tokenomics. So it is being discussed. I don't have, in terms of kind of what the product team is thinking of taking on in the short term. I don't have an answer on kind of that short term roadmap of changing the UI or showing some different information yet.
That's fair. And I guess are we expecting, I guess, the work or the volume, so to speak, to increase as these integrations continue to onboard? And is there some kind of fielding process, like for when we take on a new exchange or something of that nature, like there's a certain expectation of volume through or throughput that we're looking for, or are there some of those metrics that are being taken into consideration?
Yeah, so I will say that in terms of kind of individual biz dev conversations and research and due diligence that goes into us approaching someone or someone that approaches us, we do look at their order flow and the frequency of kind of whatever on-chain activity it is that we're going to be helping them address. The challenge is that a lot of this is brand new, and without kind of a current set of data around someone already doing that operation, it is a very challenging kind of projection. And so, I won't say that I have, very targeted, specific, let's say, minimums for folks, but I would say that most of the protocols that we're in discussions with or are targeting, say, upcoming at permissionless or things like that, they do significant volume, and our hope is that it will drive legitimate volume through us as well.
Yeah, one thing I'll say is in addition to just trying to understand what a protocol is doing historically from a volume perspective, they're also impacted by just larger market forces. So if we see just larger the market volume in general just dip, it's obviously going to impact the protocol level as well. And MEV definitely is a lot more in a hotter market than a lower market. So trying to predict what that MEV is in addition to just general volume is a pretty difficult task. And as we get more data historically from our protocol, it'll become an easier task. But so early in the life cycle of this, it's definitely a very, very I'd say almost impossible task. But it's definitely something we will be striving to get.
And just to kind of bring the point, hit the point home here, kind of what I'm guessing from the root of your question. Yes, we do expect to see that kind of organic order flow and kind of accrual of value through our tokenomics increase as more more users come to us, as more integrations go live. That is still our mantra, that us working together and coordinating with other protocols is where we hope to see the kind of long-term sustainable flow coming through our protocol come from.
And then one last question. So when Ninja is out there doing its thing, right, completing these orders and being the super keeper that it is, are those proceeds that it earns going to the KeeperDAO vault, or where are they going? Because my understanding, it's kind of like run by the team, right?
So, Ninja is technically Jay-Z's intellectual property. Previously during the hiding game era, and before this, that's where those proceeds are going. I'm actually not sure on a determination of what's happening there. Ninja's main function right now, as kind of what I would consider our leading keeper, is also to keep all of the other keepers honest, keep the bids in line, make sure that the right amount of competition is happening, that folks are bidding the right percents of profit, and executing as many orders as possible in the right way. So that's kind of where Ninja's role has landed. In terms of the arbitrage or proceeds that have come from Ninja's regular operations, I actually do not know the right answer to that question. I think we can follow up on that.
Cool. Thank you.
Of course. All right. Do we have any other last comments on the discretionary investment proposal? Or we can kind of move to even a more open floor style, kind of along the lines of Preston's questions. Do we have anything else from community members, or just thoughts in general, governance related, or anything else? No. Quiet group on a Friday today. A little too much Cinco de Mayo, possibly. All right. Well, without any other kind of questions or topics, it sounds like we have solid support for both of the proposals that are out there now. So really exciting to kind of see that. In terms of just the last little bits of housekeeping, I'd love to just point everybody to the great work that's been happening in Treasury Tuesdays. Along the lines of, allocating our assets and the research that's going on to that. I see the documents that have been created, and, everyone from Matt, Stubbs, Starfire, and all the other folks, Wes, Breeze, that have been participating on a weekly and pretty much daily basis. It's been really exciting to see. And so, I'm going to, continue to tell people, please attend those. If you have some thoughts about deploying our assets, you want to see the research that's going into it. I can't wait for them to kind of, get the keys to the Lambo and get to go drive some returns on our assets. The other thing that I wanted to point people towards is the Index Co-op AMA that we're going to be hosting next Thursday. So we'll be doing a bigger announcement on that. But Index Co-op, so if you're not familiar with them, really awesome protocol. They work with different type of token sets that they've offered, everything from the DPI token, GMI. They now have a new type of leveraged ETH token. There's just so much to talk about with them. So, I hope everybody here makes some time for next week. Matt, you want to come plug this a little bit better than me?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think right now it's for 4 p.m. Eastern, and I just sent a message to the team confirming today before I really kind of pushed it out as a formal announcement. But yeah, to Dietz's point, there's a lot of creative things we can do with them, and I think a really good way to kind of deepen our relationship. I will say that they are definitely retail focused more than anything. At least it's my personal opinion. Maybe something to confirm with them, but I think with there being multiple ways that we can integrate with them and deepen this relationship. As well as knowing that the swap protocol on our end is kind of coming up. I think us having kind of that relationship with somebody who has such a strong community and a retail focus could be kind of a home run once we do have a swap. So, more to come, and we're going to have a lot of fun, I think, next week, assuming that confirmation time I mentioned is still valuable. So I will keep people posted.
Awesome. All right. Oh, thanks for the feedback, Alcap. Yeah, maybe we can look into moving Friday town halls, but I guess you'll be able to cross off your typical square in Dietz bingo, and we can give everybody some time back on their beautiful Friday, hopefully, Friday afternoon, Friday evening, Friday night. And thank you all for coming in, for sharing your ideas here. For me specifically, I love seeing the community kind of engagement and not just I don't really want to call it volunteerism, but really kind of mind share that's happening between all the folks. And there are continuing to still be kind of community grant opportunities if you're wanting to detail those as well. But again, really just a thank you all. It's been another solid week here. We have some more exciting things, in the path. If you hadn't gone and listened to the Tokamak AMA that Hazard did, that's one heck of a re-listen. So I would check that out if you want to, get really, really hyped up about where things are headed for us as well. But for now, I'm going to go on ahead and close out Town Hall a little early today. And so I guess thanks everybody for joining, and have a great weekend. Thank you.